Christopher Rufo is a contributing editor, my colleague at City Journal, and he's a terrific writer and a brave writer, and he lives in Seattle, and he wrote a description of what happened. And I want to read some of it to you so you don't just have ideas in your head that you're seeing on Twitter. He says, Seattle's hard left secessionist movement has claimed its first territory, 6 blocks in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. For the past week, Black Lives Matter and Antifa-affiliated activists have engaged in a pitched battle with Seattle police officers and National Guard soldiers in the neighborhood. Hoping to break through the barricade, protesters attacked officers with bricks, bottles, rocks, and improvised explosive devices, sending some officers to the hospital. At the same time, activists circulated videos of the conflict and accused the police of brutality, demanding that the city cease using tear gas and other anti-riot techniques. So it's not just violence, it's the matrix. It's creating this narrative to make it seem like it's the police doing the bad stuff. Then, in a stunning turn of events, the city of Seattle made the decision to abandon the East Precinct and surrender the neighborhood to the protesters. This is an exercise in trust and de-escalation, explained Chief Carmen Best. Officers and National Guardsmen emptied out the facility, boarded it up, and retreated. And immediately afterward, Black Lives protesters, Antifa black shirts, and armed members of the hard left John Brown Gun Club seized control of the neighborhood, moved the barricades into a defensive position. So the first thing they did, by the way, was build a wall. Maybe they can get Mexico to pay for it. And they declared it the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ. They even put up a cardboard sign at the barricades declaring, "You are now leaving the USA." Now, let me just say the city government has not developed a strategic response to the takeover of Capitol Hill. According to one Seattle police officer, the city's leadership is in chaos, and the mayor has made the decision to let a mob of 1,000 people dictate public safety policy for a city of 750,000 people. And this is all going on in Portland, too. They're now putting up barricades in Portland. The New York Times, meanwhile, is running op-eds on Knucklehead Row that say things like, what does it mean to defund the police? What do they mean? What do they mean by that? This is what they mean. It's not defunding the police. It's defunding the real police so that you can have black shirt police. You can have Nazis who call themselves anti-fascists, which is like hilarious. And that's what's happening in Seattle. This is a real thing. And this is what Joe Biden is the ventriloquist dummy for. That's a really important point, and I'll show it to you in just a second. First, let's go to the Seattle governor. This is going to be cut 11. His name is Jay Inslee, and he's asked by a reporter about the fact that the most important city in his state has been in part taken over by armed insurgents. It has been taken over by armed insurgents. And here is Jay Inslee, governor of the state. Here is his response.
Governor, I'd like to ask you about what's going on in Seattle. There's this thing called the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. What's your thought on that? The fact that the protesters have taken that over and not allowing people to come and go freely? And regarding the National Guard.
Well, that's news to me, so I'll have to reserve any comment about it. I have not heard anything about that from any credible source. Not that you're not credible. It's just like before I espouse an opinion, I should know of which I speak.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
That fills you with confidence, doesn't it? That just fills your heart with like, oh yeah, this thing is in good control. The mayor, Jenny Durkin, is one of the ways this started is because she said she wouldn't defund the police. She says in an effort to proactively de-escalate interactions between protesters and law enforcement outside the East Precinct, Chief Best and Seattle PD officers have removed barricades surrounding the East Precinct while safely securing the facility. So this is the leadership. And you know, Chris Rufo says, these people weren't elected. This is now control of a major part of a major city by people who are unelected. They were elected. They were elected when you elected people who let them take over. They were elected when you elected people who let them take over. And one of them is a woman named Nikita Oliver, a radical activist and a former mayoral candidate. After night fell, and this is Rufo again, after night fell and a light rain began falling, she spoke to the crowd and outlined the ideological commitments behind the occupation. We need to align ourselves with the global struggle that acknowledges that the United States plays a role in racialized capitalism. Racialized capitalism is built upon patriarchy, white supremacy, and classism, and of course has made the world richer than it's ever been. But let's not say anything about that. And of course, was also great for Black lives until we were convinced to shut down the economy for months and months and months. There is also this guy, a rapper. First of all, hooded men spray painted the police station with slogans and anarchist symbols, renamed it the Seattle People's Department East Precinct. Raz Simone, a local rapper with an AK-47 slung from his shoulder and a pistol attached to his hip, screamed, "This is war," into a megaphone. Here is the rapper. This is, quote, this is cut 9.
You don't know the owner of this place? The owner that's actually being nice and letting us stay here?
Oh, God.
You forgot. We are the police of this community now.
Hey! What the? Hey! What the? Hey! What the? Back up. Yo, please.
Oh, you got someone coming in 15 minutes? I just said 15 minutes. You talking about 15 minutes? What the f you talking about? Don't be talking no threats around here, man. Don't be saying no threats. I'll blow your brains out. Don't do that.
This is a guy, they're beating people up, they're questioning people, they're demanding tribute money to let people get to work. They didn't want to defund the police, they wanted to be the police. And when they become the police, they, of course, are Nazis. These are Nazis. That's what they are. They're Nazis, you know. And the fact that they put forward socialism as some kind of weird utopian idea that's going to work this time doesn't stop them from being Nazis. They're anti-Semites. They're, racist. They're incredibly violent. They're not in favor of democracy or election. They're not in favor of free. Remember, capitalism isn't really an ism. It's just people trading freely, so they're not in favor of that either. Meanwhile, opinion among white liberals seems to be shifting toward this evil movement, Black Lives Matter. And of course, that is what I was talking about before and warning you about before, which is the Stockholm syndrome. I mean, people feel like they've been held hostages. And remember, this COVID lockdown, this Chinese flu lockdown, and this happening now is all part of the same thing. Thank you for tuning into The Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.